So they call me the governor, though I'm actually Captain Kyle from Fandom Spotlite. You may have watched my YouTube videos, you may not have, that's fine. If you haven't, I will find you. But I have the honor today to moderate a gentleman who has all kinds of talent. You might know him from Doctor Who, Blackpool, The Missing, Extant, the Singapore Grip, and this little show, I think, The Walking Dead. Have you heard of that one? It is my great pleasure to bring up my friend and yours, David Morrissey.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming.
So how have you been doing, David?
Yeah, I've been good. Well, you know, it's been a bit of a weird old time, hasn't it, for everybody? But I've managed to get through it. I didn't have to do any homeschooling, which was good. You know, my kids are older now. And also, my eldest son, who's like 25, we lived together. So it was, you know, I knew I wouldn't get that time again. So we just watched movies and baked and sort of argued and did things like that. But it was good. I got out of it okay. I know a lot of people struggled, but I was thankful for the time.
What did you bake?
So we did lots of bread that we never ate. It was like, you know, stuff that you thought, that's not going to be good. We did, I tried to get him to do some meals, which he did, but, you know, there's only so much pasta one can eat. But yeah, it was good. We did lots of things. Mostly we watched movies. What we did was, him and I and my other son, we would write down a movie on a piece of paper, and we'd fold it up and we'd put it on the floor, and then we'd let the dog in. And whichever one the dog went to, we'd watch that movie, so that we didn't have any arguments then, you know. But I realized that if I put a little bit of like peanut butter on my folded paper, the dog would always go straight for it. So it was, my choices always came out first.
That's a way to cheat. Now, I actually have someone I need to introduce you to. What I'd like you to do for a moment, if you could just cover your eyes.
Oh my God, this is going to be...
This is going to be horrible. But,
is it going to be you doing an impersonation of someone?
No, not exactly.
Okay. I don't like that reaction.
Oh, you'll like it, I hope.
Okay.
Give me 1 second so he can get ready for you.
God.
He seems scared.
Yeah.
All right, David, go ahead.
Oh my God. That is just not, it's not good. It looks like me though, doesn't it?
I think you look like me.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Check this out.
Oh, my God. That's sort of very accurate as well.
Well, I'll try.
Hello.
That's the guy?
That's the guy. That's the guy. Look, where'd you get the little coat from? That's great.
It was actually made by the guy who made the puppet.
Oh, wow.
I wish I could take, credit.
Full credit.
I'm a great puppet maker, but
yeah. But the costume is fantastic. I signed a card the other day, which was like one of those cards that had that shirt on the card. I find those things really amazing that, the costumes come like that. That is scary.
I think you're scary.
I'm a little freaked out by that.
You think I'm freaky? Have you watched your shows?
We can see your mouth moving. We're not supposed to see your mouth moving.
I'm not a ventriloquist.
Oh, okay.
There's this thing called ADR. Whenever I do that video. A lot. Yeah, it's awesome. So he's going to put me away, isn't he?
Yeah.
Damn.
I've seen some very weird governor sort of toys in my time.
Well, I take the cake, right?
You do. Oh, you always take the cake.
Now, this time is about you folks. We have a microphone over here, so please line up if you have any questions for this fine gentleman. I have a couple questions I want to start out with, but please get in a queue, as they call it over.
Yeah, line queue.
Line queue. And my first burning question, I just gathered, because you have a dog, that you're a dog person. But is the governor a dog or a cat person?
Well, that's a good question. I think the governor is sort of, he seems so sort of independent. I don't know whether he could be tied to anything, really. But I think you probably have some wild dogs somewhere, I think you probably have dogs in the yard. But I don't know whether he's a very caring dog owner. He's probably more like, they're probably guard dogs rather than sort of companions. I've had my dog for a long time. He's a rescue dog. And, we're very close. He was great for the family, actually. he's a real glue around the family. Everybody loves him. So, he's the focus of all our attention. So the governor doesn't seem to me to be someone who wants any attention away from himself. So he probably wouldn't have any pets in that way.
I see him more as a fish tank person.
Yeah, he definitely has fish tanks. He likes those heads in the fish tank.
Now, when you were modeling, you were looking at the character description of the governor, were there people that you kind of took inspiration from when putting together his mannerisms, his way of acting?
The one thing I looked at when I was doing it was obviously with the Kirkman graphic novels are wonderful, but I looked at the books. There's a couple of origin stories for the governor written by Jay Bazinga called The Rise of the Governor and The Road to Woodbury and stuff, and I read them. If you haven't read them, I strongly urge them. They're wonderful books. And that's where I found Brian, the governor himself, the sort of origin story of where he came from and how he sort of became the man he was. It's a very complex narrative, actually. And Jay does a really wonderful job of seeing these two brothers, really, and their relationship, and one hero worshipping the other one, and taking on his sort of persona. So I wanted to bring that in. I think in the comic strip, in the graphic novels, the minute we see the governor, he's bad. He's bad. He's going to do terrible things. He does them very quickly. He gets his comeuppance. But I wanted to give him a longer journey than that. I wanted to make him someone who you felt before this terrible thing had happened to the world that he was someone who was a decent person. We know he's a family man. We know that we know he's a father. I always thought that thing of keeping Penny in their room, I know it's weird, but I always thought that was a really loving thing, because this illness, this sort of terrible plague came from nowhere. Who's to say it wouldn't go away again? Who's to say they wouldn't find a cure, So I saw it as a very loving thing, even though it was very perverse, like him brushing her hair so he keeps her in a cage with a bag on her head. I find that very loving. That might say more about me than but
I'm a little uncomfortable now.
So they were the things, but the books were really where I got the character from. Yeah.
Excellent. And when of course they do your origin story in Tales from the Walking Dead, I will be cast as his brother.
Yeah, I really can't wait to do that. Yeah, that'd be great.
And he'll be like, get this guy off set. I don't know how I got here. Before we get to questions, you have a new project coming out. How much can you talk about Sherwood?
So Sherwood is a BBC job, which I think is on HBO here. That's a modern thing. Although it's about a modern community, but there's a murder that happens in the community that's all about something that happened 30 years ago in the UK, which was this miners' strike. About 30 years ago, there was a real big seismic thing in the trade unions in the UK where the miners just went on strike and the government took them on. And it was terrible battles in the streets. It was a really big thing for us. And the repercussions of that are happening today, and it's a modern story about that. So I've got that coming out. I think that's probably in the next couple of months. We finished that about 2 months ago.
Awesome. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah, good.
Lise, first up.
I was wondering if you enjoyed being the villain in the show.
Yeah, I did, actually. It's a great show to be on, first and foremost. One of the reasons I love coming to the cons is, to see everybody, but also to meet up with my friends from the show. I think you can tell from the actors you meet that we all got on. It was a really great atmosphere, not just in front of the camera, but behind the camera. So it was a great show to join. One of the weird things about it for me is it slightly ruined other shows I went on to because it was such a great atmosphere. And also really brilliantly run, not just from, the directors that come on, but the people who work in the offices, the people who work behind the scenes. It's all there for you. So it's a great show to do. And the governor was such a brilliant character, particularly with the new complexities that they brought to it. So yeah, it was great. It's hard work, as any great job is. The hours are long, but the people are so fantastic. So I love doing it. The weird thing was that sometimes, I'm sure some of you have been on the show in zombie school or whatever, but sometimes you'll have done a day's work where you've killed a zombie or ripped somebody's throat out, And then you'll be in Whole Foods in Atlanta and someone will tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, you killed me the other day. You know, you're like, oh my. And I remember the first time that I'd been on screen. I'd been living in Atlanta. I'd been working for a couple of months and everything was fine. I could go to the shops. I could go to the restaurants. I could do everything I wanted. And then after the first 2 episodes of mine had been on, I was in some supermarket somewhere, and there was a woman who dropped her bag, and I was helping her put her stuff in the bag, and she was saying, oh, thank you, thank you. And she looked up and just screamed at me. And I was like, what? And she'd obviously recognized me as the governor, but so I'd forgotten that was it, because you get eased into it. You're here, for me, I was here for a good, like 3 or 4 months before my episodes came on screen. You know, it was so strange to suddenly be this villain in the middle of Atlanta. That was crazy. Yeah, it's fun though.
That was awesome.
So, hi.
Hi, hello.
So my question is if the governor and Negan were to meet up and everything, do you think they would be good friends, or do you think they would probably want to kill each other?
Yeah, I don't think you could trust either of them, do you? I think they.
I think they would be a great evil pair.
Yeah, they would be a good evil pair, but they wouldn't trust each other. I'd love to do it. Jeffrey, I think I've worked with Jeffrey as an actor in the past. I love him, and I think it's a great character as well. I'd love to put those two together. I think what the governor would do is he'd probably sort of very cleverly play low status for a while, and then whenever Negan turned his back, you'd have to be careful. I think he was sort of looking with Rick for that at some point, that he was sort of planning to sort of pretend to be some sort of ally to him, but Rick was too smart for that. But yeah, I'd love to work with him. I'd love to work with Jeffrey. I think it's a brilliant character. But yeah, I don't think they would be very trustworthy of each other.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So you work with Jeffrey in Extant.
Yeah, we did a show with Halle Berry called Extant, which was, we did it in LA, and very different sort of sci-fi show. And him and Halle Berry were on the run, and I was this FBI guy trying to find them. That was great. I love doing that. It was, Halle is just one of the greatest people in the world, I think. And also, again, runs a wonderful set. I've been very lucky, actually, with those actors. Andrew Lincoln, who was my, obviously the leading actor when I was on the show. He's such a brave, he's the first guy on set. He's the last guy to leave. He knows everybody's names. He knows their wives' names. He knows their kids' names. He knows their birthdays. And not just because he wants to, he said that's genuinely who he is. He's someone who really cares about the show and the people on it. And he wants them to come back and work next season and stuff. So he creates a wonderful atmosphere. And so Halle did as well. It was one of the first times I've ever worked on a film set where there was a crash. So what was wonderful about it was loads of the people in work, men and women, were able to bring their kids, and sort of they could hang out, and they were all looked after, and it was like they were part of the show. It wasn't like the kids have to stay at home. It was all very inclusive of everybody, and it was made for a brilliant atmosphere. And I thought all shows should be like this. It certainly meant that people they weren't sort of dividing their time up during the school holidays or things like that, or suddenly at 3 o'clock when the kids were coming home, you were able to sort of pick your kids up and bring them to work for those last few hours, and they would be fed and entertained, and you could still work, and that was a brilliant atmosphere, and Halle put that all in process. So, we waste a lot of money on film sets sometimes. So to put your money into that meant that people were able to work, enjoy the work, know their children were safe. And that was brilliant. So yeah, it was a really pleasure to work with her, actually.
Though I remember Jeffrey's character and yours did not get along.
Yeah, no, I had to interrogate him at one point. That was fun. But also the other thing about Jeffrey is he's really funny. So, you'd be working with him and he'd just make me laugh all the time. So I was sort of quite glad I didn't have to work with him on The Walking Dead, because the time we wasted where I was in tears of laughter working with him. He's such a funny guy. He'd often, because he's got reading glasses, and he'd often put and the times he'd walk onto set with his reading glasses, and I was like, mate, I think you've got to take these off. He's like, oh no, it's crazy. But he was a really good guy. He was brilliant to work with.
Sir, your question.
Hey.
Were you upset when they killed the governor early?
Yeah, I was, we're all upset. The thing I was really upset about was killing Herschel. because Scott, God bless him, he was like, one of the greatest men I've ever worked with or known, really. What a great guy. And he loved being on the show, and so did I. So what happens is, I don't know whether it's changed now, but when I was on it, an episode would take 8 days to film, and we didn't know what the next episode was. So at lunchtime, say you're starting the next episode on the Monday, on the Wednesday or the Thursday, you get into your trailer at lunchtime, and the new episode would be there. So you'd read it. Of course, you've always read it the other way around, so you'd turn it backwards and read it back to make sure you were still alive. And as the season is going on, you think, well, someone's going to go. So we got to the trailer. I looked at it. I saw that I was still alive because I sort of was getting to the next one. And then I saw I killed Scott. And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, no, I'm never going to be able. And, talk about going to Whole Foods. I'm never going to be able to walk down the street again. This is going to kill me. So it was really tough. And what happens usually is you come out of your trailer having read it, and there's always one door closed, which is the person who's been killed, because they're on the phone to their manager going, I'm going to need another job. But Scott was out. He came out, and he was sort of shaking everybody's hand. He was saying, well, we're going to make a great one. It's going to be a great episode. And we did it, and it was really, really tough. There was a lot of tears that day. And all the crew turned up in their suspenders because, Herschel wore the suspenders. And on the day I died, they all came in with eye patches and stuff. But it was, you have to get on with the work. You have the sentiment. And you're upset because you're not going to see your mates again. But you're there to do a job, and you have to do it. So I was upset to be leaving. I always knew I was going to go. I thought I'd only get a season, actually. I thought the arc of the character would be a season. Because in the graphic novels, we were sort of doing, once the governor turned evil, we were sort of doing that. But so when they came back, when I got to the end of that season and I was still alive, I was surprised. But then they went and got those origin stories, and that was wonderful. But I was upset once we were going, and certainly when I saw that Scott was going as well. But I was happy that I got to beat up Andrew Lincoln. That was great, and that went on for a long time. So we had to work that out, how many punches he got in the face from me. And there's quite a few outtakes of that of us laughing as well. So that was quite fun. But, yeah. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I remember when Lily came over for the final shot, I was like, maybe she missed. Maybe he'll get up. Maybe he's okay. But
But I could never work out with that thing with Lily about whether that was a loving gesture or a hateful gesture, because she could have just left him because he was dying. He was going to die. He had the sword right through him, so he would have become a walker. But maybe I'd already had the episodes where I'd talked to her about, you have to go for the brain. And she shot him in the brain. And I thought, well, is that a loving gesture on her part so he doesn't become a walker? And, it was quite ambiguous, that. I thought that was quite an interesting sort of turn of events, really. Okay.
Hi. When I first watched the show, I had no idea you were British at all. How do you prepare for, your accent? What's that process?
So Andrew and I and Lenny and a couple of the other Brits, we have this wonderful voice coach, accent coach called Jessica Drake. I'd never worked with her before. I'd done American before, but I'd never worked with her. She was somebody Andrew had found. And she's brilliant. I mean, really brilliant. So what she does is you spend a lot of time with her where you break the script down, you rewrite it, you write it in your own sort of little way of getting into the American sounds. I listen to a lot of audio books. I listen to Bill Clinton's autobiography that he reads, and I know that's not exactly the same place, but the sort of similar I like the tone of his voice as well, and he speaks a slower sort of tempo. But what really helps is we film it here. So, I got here, all our crew are local, I hung out with them. I walked around Atlanta. I started speaking to people, talking to people. Sonoya, I was in the coffee shop all the time, just talking to people. So you learn about the ear. But the important thing for me is you don't get complacent on it. Because once you think, oh, I've got this, then it starts to unravel. And you have to constantly be working on it. But I've done lots of accents, and that's what you have to do. It's like any sort of, I always think of it as like an athlete, really, that you do all that work so that when the starting pistol goes off, you can forget about all that work and you can just do it. So you do all that work at home. It's like learning your lines. You just do all that work. You work, and then once you're on the set, you can forget about all that. And some accents are easier than others. It depends on who you are. That accent for me, it came naturally. I could do it. But there's other accents that I find Australian I find really tough. I had to do that, and that's really hard for me for some reason. So Irish is really easy because that's my family are Irish, so I can do that. Scottish is sometimes a bit tough depending where you are. So, it's different. And in America, it's sort of, at least with the governor, it was a strong accent. Sometimes when you get into that Midwest thing, it's quite a subtle sort of, not really an accent at all, and that's really hard. So, yeah, it's all about discipline, really.
Cool,
but thank you for your question. Oh, I recognize you.
Oh, jeez.
You know me.
Yeah.
Didn't you punch him in the face?
Yeah, many a time.
Many times.
He had to get Michonne to help him out.
That I did. So, in general, what was your absolute favorite scene in the entire show, whether the seasons you were in or afterwards, and what was the saddest for you?
Well, yeah, the saddest was killing Herschel. That was a tough day. That was a long, hard day to do. But also, it's hard to choose a favorite because I loved it. I genuinely loved it all. It was just great. But there's a scene where I'm stalking Laurie, and she goes into this. Andrea, and she's in this like warehousey place, and I'm sort of whistling, and I'm sort of banging, and it's making all this noise, and that wasn't in the script. So we just walked into that place, and it had this amazing sort of echo to it. And I started whistling, and I said to the director, do you think we can put this in? And he said, yeah, that's really freaky. But then, of course, everybody's, what's he going to whistle? Because we might have to pay money for it, So I had to sort of whistle this thing that was already in the show that we'd used in an earlier episode. So we knew we had the rights to it. That was fun. There's nothing like burning down your entire town for fun, That's good. I remember one of the first scenes I had was with Rooker. And that was great. So it was me and him and Dallas, and we just did this whole sort of scene together. And Michael is just, as you know, a force of nature. So he came on, he'd been on the show before, but he missed that season out and came back into the thing. So it was his reveal, really. We'd left him on the roof of that building in the first season. And he was just this ball of energy. And I walked in and I thought, oh, okay, this is what it's going to be like. He's on all the time. And we had such a great day, really. And it was sort of just a dialogue scene we had over sort of a model of Woodbury. And he was just wonderful and still is. Whenever I meet him, I think, man, yeah, you're just so, we've done lots of cons in the past. We've been together all over the world, really. And he's just mad as a box of cats, But you never have a boring moment with him, He's great. And when we did the fight, so we did this fight where, I have to sort of take him down. And in the script, it said he bites his fingers off. And that was just brutal. So he had this thing on his hand and these false fingers that I could bite off. But I kept missing them. And he was like, oh, no, that's my finger. And I was like, okay. You don't want to bite Michael Rooker's fingers off. So that was really fun. But you know what? Honestly, it was so great. I love the scene with Rick where it's just me and him. I don't know whether, I'm sure you've all seen that sort of bad lip syncing stuff. But, the scene when we're just having the trade-off in that big barn, I love doing that. That felt like a play to me. It felt like, the two actors just sitting there going for it. And then I loved coming back in season 4 where he was sort of on his knees by that time, the governor. He'd sort of grown his beard, he had that long hair. You thought he'd given up on life, and then he sees this family and he has a chance to reinvent himself, to sort of be a good man. And he tries to be a good guy, you know, he tries to be this sort of, even when he gets brought into that community, he sort of tries not to take control of it, he tries to give it to someone else, because he doesn't want the responsibility, but he just can't do it. You know, and he has to go with the natural place he is, you know. So that was a great arc. That was like doing a movie for me, coming back for this 4th season, because it was 3 episodes, which was just my arc. So it was great to do, you know. And then you end up at the prison, and you take it down, you know. So that was great. So yeah, they were. That was a great time for me. But as I say, the whole thing. I mean, you know, even now when I go down and visit those guys on set, I get a tingle of wanting to be with them. You know, great people.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
David, didn't you like grow out a beard for that? And
Yeah, so they said to me, look, all we know when you come back is you'll need a beard. And I said, okay, I can grow a beard, but I've got a job I'm about to do. I don't really want to do it with a beard. And they said, we insist on you having a beard. So I went to the people who I was working with and saying, look, I'm going to play this guy with a beard. And they went, oh, no, that's not right. You know, he's a clean-cut guy. He sort of works in an office. And I said, I know, but we're just going to have to go for it. So I grew this beard. I did this entire job with this beard, which was a bit, I think they even added a line in there at some point. And then I come back, I fly to Atlanta, and the first thing they said to me is like, oh yeah, we're not doing that now. You can shave it off. And we've got a false beard for you. And I was like, no, and I could never tell those other people that I've just been months with them with the beard, because they'd moved heaven and earth for me, so in order for me to have this beard. And then they shaved it off the day I got there, they shaved it. Then not only did they shave it off, but then they made a false beard for me to put it on. Because the way it works is every episode has to be done in its entirety before they move on to the other one. And at the end of this episode, it was the end of the sequence. So you saw me at the prison without the beard. And then the next episode is the flashback, which is the start of the story with me with the beard. And they couldn't not do this scene. So I was really, oh, no, can't we just move that scene and do it at the end? I said, that's not the way it works. Because every director has to complete their own episode. That's in their contract. They can't let another director do that. It would have to be exceptional circumstances for that to happen. And my beard was not an exceptional circumstance. So it was really tough. Hey.
Do you have a favorite line?
Yeah, I do. I loved Liar. I thought that was great. But also, I liked that Welcome to Woodbury, because it's sort of so ambiguous of he's saying to the two girls, welcome to this wonderful holiday camp. And we all know that it's not, you know. So it's all there. The lines are, you know, you get great lines as a villain. You just do. I mean, there's a bit where I think I'm interrogating Maggie and Glenn, and Glenn's being beaten up in the other room, and I'm being really nice to her, and then sort of getting very weird with her, all that stuff. So yeah, there's great lines. The whole scene with Andy where we're trade-off, that was a great, wonderfully written piece of work, I thought. The writers, I mean, you know, coming from the UK, usually what we have in the UK is you have one writer for everything. So even if you're on a 8-part series, it will be the same writer who's doing all that work. I'd never really worked in the format of the writer's room before, where you have a showrunner, like I had Glenn. It was before Scott had taken over. Scott did season 4 for me. So he or she is looking after the whole arc of everything and putting it together. But each episode is a different writer, and they are the producer of the show. So I'd never worked with that before. It was really interesting for me. And also it was interesting for me because the other thing that happens in the UK is the director is God. So it's a bit more like a movie. You're looking at the director to give you notes. You're looking at the director to build the arc. You're looking at the director to... Whereas in American television, director's important, but it's much more the showrunner's show. You know, they're the people who are setting the tone. They're the people who are looking at the
the overall effect of it. And the director comes on for bits of, and obviously some directors come on and do lots of episodes, but it's really the showrunner who you have to look at the actor and say, is this where you want me to go? Is this what you want me to do? So I had to relearn all that. It was really interesting. And I had Glenn and Scott as my showrunners, and they were both very different, but really brilliant. I never got to work with Frank Darabont, so which everybody loved on the show. So, you know, it's interesting how those showrunners change, really. But that was very different for me in the UK, working in the UK.
Thank you.
Good, thank you very much.
Now, you mentioned the interrogation scene with Maggie, and obviously you made her remove some clothing. And I always felt that was not like a rapey thing. It was more a vulnerability thing, because when you're naked, you feel more vulnerable.
Yeah, it's not good though. I mean,
I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying it's not as bad as you might have thought.
It's never a good thing. I think, you know, I think the governor's a complicated guy, and I think he knows how to sort of manipulate people, and I think he knows how to make them feel insecure and how to put them on edge, and that's what he was doing with her. And I would never sort of wash him out in a way that makes him cleaner than that. I think, you know, he's a man who would probably... Power corrupts, we know that. Power is a terrible corrupter. And I think he is this man, and he's got this town which he's built. He's got this place of security. He's suddenly been giving this power by all these people. I mean, the shows he puts on, you know, in the stadium where he gets people fighting each other, where he puts Merle and Daryl together, you know, this is a man who's been terribly corrupted by his power. And I'd like to think that before this happened, he wasn't that person. But being given this staff, this sort of control over these people, has turned him. And I think we see that a lot in this show, where people get to a position of power and we want them to be good. I mean, even Rick, you know, Rick who starts out as our hero, is the man we're rooting for. He does really, really questionable things as the show goes on. He lets us down, you know, and that's what I love about the show, is it's not a squeaky clean show. It's really about human beings in a really trying situation, and looking at the decisions they make. And sometimes they make decisions we really wish they wouldn't. And that's true of a lot of people in our lives, and ourselves at times. So, you know, it's not a Hallmark show. It's not a show where people are doing things romantically or slightly sort of, you know, they can all walk off into the sunset afterwards. They're really complex people having to deal with survival. And sometimes your own survival is at the cost of other people's. And will you make that choice? And so I like that about it. And I like the fact that Rick, what they did with Rick is, you know, they put him into some situations where you wanted a better person to make that decision, and he let you down. And it was great. And I know that Andrew loved and pushed for that sort of complexities. And I think that's why people respond to the show so much.
He made the governor proud a few times.
Besides yourself, who's your favorite villain and why?
Well, I do like Jeff. I think Jeff's great. I mean, you know, people talk about me killing Herschel, but when he killed Glenn, I mean, I was really so angry. Because I think, you know, Stephen, and we know this, how he's gone on, is such a fantastic actor. And I thought what he did with Glenn was just brilliant. So, yeah, Negan, I mean, I think Alpha was weird. I mean, just weird. And Samantha, I know, she is just brilliant. She's a fantastic actress. If you don't know her work, I mean, you know, go and see. What's the name of the film she's in with Tom Cruise? What's that? Minority Report. Is that right? Just weird as anything, but brilliant. And so, yeah, it's really, she's out there. But yeah, but, you know, the best one is the governor, obviously. But I would say. But, yeah, they do great villains. Yeah. Who's yours? Remember who's in the room with you? No, who is yours?
I don't know.
Yeah, there's so many to talk of.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries, my pleasure.
And Alpha's always watching.
It's so weird. Hello.
You as governor was actually, I felt that was perfect role. But if you could have chosen other character, would you still choose to be governor, or you want to be as a character?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I've been asked that a lot. And it's hard to sort of choose a character over the actor, because the actors who play them usually are really great. You know,
Yes.
so you're looking at the actor and what they've interpreted and how what they brought to the role.
Well,
And I think Daryl's a great character.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think Norman, but it's what Norman brings to it, really. I think he does a superb job. So, you know, that's a great character. Negan's a great character. I think a really good villain. But I wouldn't swap him for the governor. I really love playing the governor. But yeah, I think that there's just something about Daryl that I think he's just, you know, he's lasted the longest. So, you know, there's something about that I quite like. You know, I quite like the job security of it all. But yeah, I just think he connects with the audience. But honestly, I think that's Norman. I think Norman is so, you know, he's got it all really. And I just love what he's done with that character. Someone came to my table before yesterday, and they had photographs of us in Woodbury and Sonoya years and years ago. And they had these pictures of Norman, and honestly, I was like, God, he was so young. I mean, it's just what this show does to people. But no, I mean, he still looks great. But I mean, he was a child. You know, he was just so interesting. That first season, I don't know if you've seen it recently, but watching everybody and just how fresh-faced they are. I mean, Stephen looks about 12 years old.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, really, it's amazing. And I love that season. I mean, it's really... That bit under the tank in the middle of Atlanta when oh God, that is so, even now, sort of makes me so sort of scared and sort of on edge, you know. And when they're on the roof with Merle, with Rooker on that roof, and you can just feel the heat. Even in the UK, when I'm watching it, I get too hot, you know. It's just unbelievable. So yeah, that's a great season. I go back to that season a lot.
Yeah, so also as you know me, because what you did to Herschel was terrible, but I really enjoyed that season too.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you for that. Cheers, thank you very much. Oh, hi again.
Hi again. If your character was sitting right next to you right now,
Uh-huh.
what is one thing you would say to him?
You can use me as a prop.
Okay. Well, I'd say to him, don't kill Herschel. But I'd probably say don't go to the prison at that time. I felt that was a weak choice to take on he could have taken on the prison another time. He looked like he was forced into it, but I think he had an option there. And I always wondered whether that was a bit of a death wish on his part, whether he knew it was going to end, but it was like all or nothing. I think he could have been more political around that. I think he could have really sort of brokered some sort of deal around with Rick's gang. Maybe not with Rick, but I think he could have got to someone else who might have gone for it. He could have split that group a little bit differently. It wouldn't have been such a great finale, you know. But I think he just he went for that prison in a all or nothing way, really. And it ended badly, but it ended wonderfully as well. So it was good.
I think it was also a matter you didn't have the best people, because your tank guy doesn't know how to run a tank, didn't know how to bring infantry around to keep
he told me
Daryl away.
everything. He didn't know anything. He didn't know anything how to do that. Yeah, that was great. It was great having a tank.
Yeah.
I mean, that was good. But, you know, you need to operate those things, you know. You need the key for the ignition. That's what you need. You know, it's not going to work if you don't.
Well, plus you need to keep, you know, some troops around to, like, keep people away from the tank. If someone shows up with a Molotov cocktail,
that's just going to go
done.
straight in. We have to give a shout out to, actually, there's a guy called Daryl Pritchard, who was our special effects guy, and also my golfing buddy all the way through it. Him and Scott, we used to play golf all the time. And Andy used to take all the money. But he was our special effects guy. So he blew up the prison, and he blew up Woodbury, and he did all that stuff. And I've never felt more safe in chaos in my life. I mean, he really, you know, I've worked with special effects guys all over the world, but this guy, he would tell you exactly where the bomb was going to go off, where the fire was going to be. He'd tell you exactly where to stand and where not to stand. He would tell you how much distance you had, and he was spot on all the time. And he would create this amazing effect of chaos and fire and explosions, and you could just walk right the way through it and feel, if you stayed to the line that he gave you, you felt safe as houses. It was amazing. Our crew is full of people like that, but he was the one that I've never worked with. Such a great man who creates chaos in such a safe way, you know.
That's awesome. So we have time for 2 more, and we have 2 more, so awesome.
Okay. Who's your favorite Doctor?
All right.
And can you tell us about a fun moment on Doctor Who?
Yeah, so I have 2 favorite Doctors. One is Tom Baker, because it was the one I grew up with. I love Tom Baker. He's great. And I've met him, and he's really great. The other one is David Tennant, because he was the Doctor I worked with. Tennant's very similar in that way. I was talking before about Halle Berry and Andy Lincoln. He runs a great show. He's a wonderful actor. You know, again, as a leading actor, you have a responsibility, and he takes it with both hands. He's the first guy on set. He knows everything. He works harder. You can't come on set as an actor or a day player or whatever and just coast it when you've got a leading actor like that who does it all the time and will be there all the time. So I loved him. And on that Doctor Who was the key. I have this little boy who I have to sort of save and stuff. He was the cheekiest kid in the world. He was just so funny. So again, I was working with this kid, and he'd always say something in my ear which would make me laugh, and I was like having to rescue him. And he was great. I met him the other day. He's about 17 now. You know, really, really great guy. So that was fun. They were great days. And again, Russell T. Davis, who runs that show, or ran it when I was on it, a really, really top man to work with. I mean, you know, I've been privileged to work with so many great people, and Russell is certainly up there.
And it wasn't the first time you've worked with David.
No, I did a show called Blackpool, which is quite out there. I mean, you should check it out. It's a musical. I sing and dance. Yeah, I can. I'm a guy who thinks he's Elvis Presley. He's obviously not. It's not Orion, but it's very out there. So yeah, check it out if you can. It's on. I think you can Google it.
So I noticed on your social media you're involved with a lot of charity work. So I was wondering which one's kind of near and dear to your heart and how you got involved.
Well, all the ones I work with have my heart, but there's the one I've been recently with. I mean, obviously at the moment in Europe, we know that this crisis is happening. So there's lots of refugees coming in from Ukraine. So I'm working with that. But there's also a company I work with called the Felix Project. And they're a food charity project. So what they do is they go around all the big supermarkets, all the big restaurants, and any food that they are not using, and they were, you know, because of sell-by dates, going to throw away, but it's good food, they will take and they will redistribute it around the city. So I drive the vans for them and deliver and stuff, and they're great. But yeah, check out the Felix Project. Obviously, we're in a time of crisis in Europe, well, in the world, really, but we're feeling it's on our doorstep at the moment. So it's all hands to the pump about that. And for me, it's about whether I can just, you know, it's not taking a political stance. It's more about taking a personal stance of helping people in crisis, really. But yeah. So it's tough times for all of us, really. But thanks for your question.
Well, thank you so much, David. This has been awesome.
Great, thank you. Check out Blackpool.
Yeah, definitely check out Blackpool and go down and visit David at his table. He has other stories, you know, some of them involve me. Yeah. But, you know, and enjoy the con. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you very much. See you later.
Thanks.
Hi, this is Maisie Richardson-Sellers, and you are watching Fandom Spotlight. Be a legend and hit that like button, and most importantly, have fun and follow your fandom.